Hello students, we are reading chapter 4 of class 11, Landscape of the Soul, written by Natalie Troviroy. In the first part, we have read that this lesson is a comparative study of Chinese art and European art. Chinese paintings are abstract in nature as they can't be defined and have to be felt or experienced. Whereas in European art, we find illusionistic likeness. Their contrasting nature is explained through various examples and various stories. One is about Chinese painter Wu Daozi, who disappeared inside his painting. Second story is about another Chinese painter who didn't want to paint the eyes of the dragon for fear that the dragon may attack him on seeing him. And the third story is about Belgian painter Quentin Matisse, who painted a realistic fly to marry the girl he loved. So we have seen that Chinese paintings are based on the philosophy of Taoism, which says that life has no meaning unless we undertake the inner spiritual journey. The Europeans want a perfect likeness, whereas in Asia, or we can say in China, art is the sense of life and spirit. Chinese art requires the active participation of the viewers, both physically and mentally, to understand it. And the painter wants our active participation, not only physical but also mental. His landscape is not a copy of a real landscape. It is a representation of an inner reality, a spiritual and conceptual space. So up to here we have done in part 1. Now let us move further. This concept is expressed as sensui, literally mountain water, which used together represent the world landscape. So we have seen that Chinese paintings are based on the philosophy of Taoism. And in Taoism, a landscape is called sensui. San means mountain and sui means water. So we can say sensui literally means mountain water, which when used together represent the word landscape. Right? So these words, when these words are used together, its meaning becomes scenery or landscape. More than two elements of an image, these represent two complementary poles reflecting the Taoist view of the universe. So, these are not only two aspects of an image, mountain and water. They support each other. They are complementary to each other. They support each other to represent views of Taoist about the universe, about the world. The mountain is yang. So here, yang represents mountain in Chinese art, reaching vertically towards heaven, stable, warm and dry in the sun, while the water is yin, horizontal and resting on the earth, fluid, moist and cool. So, yang represents mountain in Chinese. It rises vertically upwards, up towards heaven. It represents stability, warmth, and dryness of the sun. Whereas water is called yin in Chinese and it spreads horizontally on the earth. And it represents liquid, moistness, and cool. Right? Then the interaction of yin the receptive feminine aspect of universal energy, and its counterpart yang, active and masculine, is of course a fundamental notion of Taoism. So here the writer says that the interaction of yin, that means yin is considered a female aspect of the energy of this universe, and yang is considered to be a male equivalent part of the universal energy. And the interaction between these two is the fundamental belief, is the fundamental idea of Taoism. What is often overlooked in is an essential third element, the middle void, where their interaction takes place. So here the writer wants to say that between these two forces of universe, what are these two forces? Mountain and water. There is a big gap, and this gap is the third essential part of the universal energy, and it is very often neglected. Here we can also say that the interaction of these two main forces of universe, that is the mountain and water, just makes the universe, and their meeting point, called the middle void, also holds great significance, although it is often overlooked, it is often neglected. Right now, this can be compared with the yogic practice of pranayama: breathe in, retain, breathe out. So this can be compared with the yogic practice of pranayama: breathe in, retain, and breathe out. And the middle, the suspension of breath, is the void where meditation occurs. And here, so this can be compared with the Vedic practice of pranayama. While doing pranayama, one learns technique of breathing in and breathing out, and between these two main activities, for a short while no activity happens. That means that is the retaining, and that is the time of the true meditation or prayers. This period of no activity is very essential, right? So the middle void is essential. That's retaining time is very essential. Nothing can happen without it. Hence the importance of the white unpainted space in Chinese landscape. So nothing can happen in this world without this middle void, and therefore Chinese art gives importance to the white unpainted space in the paintings. So this void is very essential, nothing can happen without it. And here we can say the mountains and the water in the Chinese paintings are representatives of sensory, and the unpainted space is the representative of middle void, where the interaction between yin and yang takes place. Okay, now this is also where man finds a fundamental role. In that space between heaven and earth, he becomes the conduit of communication between both poles of the universe. His presence is essential, even if it's only suggested. Far from being lost or oppressed by the lofty peaks, he is in Francois Shank's wonderful expression, the eye of the landscape. So here the writer wants to say that in this gap of emptiness, a human being achieves its basic function. It is considered a place between heaven and earth, and a human being thus becomes a means of communication. Conduit means channel, means medium of communication between both poles of the universe, and he becomes a means of communication between these two parts of universe, right? Then presence of human beings is essential in this universe, even if it is only indicated or suggested. Still, it would be better than being absent or restrained by the high peaks. A famous Chinese philosopher, Francois Shanks, has called man the eye of the landscape. The eye of the landscape means the link which leads to the true meaning of the landscape. So here man, a human being, is the link, is a medium which leads to the true meaning of the landscape. And or we can say it is the human being who sees and appreciates the world, the universe. So he has a fundamental role. He has a vital role in the landscape, in the Chinese art. Okay, now let's move further. Getting inside outsider art. In this section, we will just see another type of art, that is outsider art. So here it is an article actually written in Hindustan Times in 2005 by Brenda Suri, and this article has a great significance, getting inside outsider art. Okay, when French painter Jean Dubuffet mooted the concept of art brut in the 1940s. The art of untrained visionary was of minority interest. So in 1940, what happened? A painter from France, and the name is Jean Dubuffet, started the term art brut. Art brut means raw art. It means art by an outsider or art by a person who has not received any formal training. So here art brut means raw art, and we can say it is an art by an outsider or art by a person who has not received any formal training. So during that time, the art of untrained visionary was of minority interest. So during that time, less number of people took notice of formally untrained but creative people, right? Then from its almost veiled beginnings, outsider art has gradually become the fastest growing area of interest in contemporary art internationally. The outsider art was initially not practiced openly, but gradually people of present era, contemporary means of present era, of the current era, started taking more interest in it even at the international level. This genre is described as the art of those who have no right to be artists as they have received no formal training, yet show talent and artistic insight. So, this category, genre means category, is described, or we can say this category of art is from those who do have no right to pursue work of artist. That means they have no right to be an artist because they have not received any formal training. Though they didn't receive any training, they have talent and understanding of an artist. Their works are a stimulating contrast to a lot of mainstream offerings, and their work is an encouragement or creative, while the work of people belonging to the main group doesn't have anything new, we can say. So their work are a stimulating contrast to a lot of mainstream offerings. That means the people of work of people belonging to the main group even doesn't have anything new, anything creative. So that's why this genre is described as outsider art. Now, around the time Dubuffet was propounding his concept in India, an untutored genius was creating paradise. So while Dubuffet was proposing or explaining his concept about outsider art, again I am telling outsider art means the art created by the artist who have not received any formal training. So when that French painter was just explaining his concept about outsider art, a person who had not received any formal training was creating marvelous art in India. And we can say that untutored, that means who hasn't got any training, that genius was creating paradise in India. Years ago, the little patch of jungle that he began clearing to make himself a garden sculpted with stones and recycled material is known to the world today as the Rock Garden at Chandigarh. You can see the picture also here. A rock garden sculpture made of broken bangles by Nek Chand. So it is a work of art by Nek Chand. So here the writer tells us that many years ago, that genius started clearing a small area of jungle, and in this area he started installing statues carved out of stone and made by using reusable or recycled material, and the whole world knows this as Rock Garden of Chandigarh. Now it is known to the world as the Rock Garden at Chandigarh. And who was that person? Who was that genius? Its 80-year-old creator director Nek Chand is now hailed as India's biggest contributor to outsider art. So, who is that person? Who is that genius? Nek Chand is the person who created Rock Garden, and he is its director also. He is regarded as the biggest contributor from India towards outsider art. The 50th issue, Spring 2005, of Raw Vision, a UK based magazine pioneer in outsider art publications, features Nek Chand and his rock garden sculpture Women by the Waterfall on its anniversary issue's cover. So here what happened? Nek Chand is regarded as the biggest contributor from India towards outsider art, and the Raw Vision magazine of UK is considered as one of the first magazines to publish about outsider art. In its 50th issue of Spring 2005, it published the work of Nek Chand, and one of the sculpture Women by the Waterfall was published on the front page of its anniversary publication. The name of that sculpture was Women by the Waterfall. The notion of art brut or raw art was of works that were in their raw state as regards cultural and artistic influences. So here we can say the notion of art brut, that means the belief of Nek Chand in raw art, meant anything that was in unrefined stage, that was in the raw state, that means unrefined stage, something that had not been affected by culture or art. Anything and everything, from a tin to a sink to a broken down car, could be material for a work of art, something Nek Chand has taken to dizzying heights. So, here, anything like a tin, a sink, or a broken car could be used for making a work of art. Nek Chand developed the art of using waste material to a very high degree, and he just has taken it to a position, to a high level of success in that art form, in that particular field. Then, recognizing his art as an outstanding testimony of the difference a single man can make when he lives his dream, the Swiss Commission for UNESCO will be honoring him by way of a European exposition of his works. So, here the UNESCO Commission in Switzerland has accepted the work of Nek Chand as brilliant work, outstanding testimony. Testimony means we can say here evidence, a formal written or spoken statement, and evidence, or we can say a proof of his brilliant work. And it said that his work is an evidence, a proof about the difference a single man can make when he follows his dreams. And to honor Nek Chand, UNESCO will organize an exhibition of his works in Europe. So, in this way, he was being honored by UNESCO. The 5-month interactive show, Realm of Nek Chand, beginning October, will be held at leading museums in Switzerland, Belgium, France, and Italy. So, here this exhibition has been named Realms of Nek Chand. The exhibition will be for a period of 5 months starting from October. The exhibition will be held in the museums of Switzerland, Belgium, France, and Italy. The biggest reward is walking through the garden and seeing people enjoy my creation, Nek Chand says. So here, Nek Chand says that the biggest reward for him is to see people walking through the rock garden to enjoy his sculptures. So here, we can say the writer wants to tell us that the art is an infinite form which has a rich history and it cannot fit inside any certain box or label. It has a life of its own, right? So that's all from my side. Have a good day.